Okay, so here's the deal. This video has been in a backlog for a while. It was made back in 2023, initially intended as a Halloween video. And well, I'm sure you can tell that never happened and hasn't since. But I was going back through my backlog, and rather than deleting this video or waiting until this year's Halloween where I'd ultimately forget about it again, I decided to get it over with and release the video before it's lost once again. Of course, this video is none other than playing through Pokemon Shield using only Ghost type Pokemon. So, let the run begin. Our first step, choosing our starter, the same as any other game, although none of them are or gain the Ghost type in. But unfortunately we do still have to choose one so we can progress through the game until we can get to the point where we can trade over our true starter. There is actually a correct choice here though, and it is none other than Grookey. Why Grookey? Well, we'll get to that later on. Eventually we progress enough through the game to be able to transfer in our true starter from Pokemon Home, which is none other than a Ghastly. But we had to make this special. Before even starting the challenge, I spent quite a while over in Pokemon Violet, breeding and hatching eggs for, well you guessed it, a shiny Ghastly. Now it is not the best looking in the world, but it is a shiny nonetheless, and once we progress enough you will see it in its true glory. Back to Shield. With Ghastly now in hand, we get right onto the challenge. But it isn't long until we encounter our first hurdle, Hop's second battle and his Wooloo. As we all know, Ghost moves do not affect normal types, and vice versa. And with Ghastly being Ghost type, the first non-Ghost move they actually learn is Payback at level 12, which will vastly overlevel us for this run, which in my opinion will kind of ruin the challenge. So the only way we can actually deal damage to Wooloo is by confusing and praying that they take themselves down, which it does, and we're able to hit the rest of Hop's team using Lick. But unfortunately the second problem of what Wooloo creates hits, Growl. By the time Wooloo took itself down, enough growls have gone off, reducing us to -6, causing Lick to deal no damage whatsoever, and nowhere near enough to take down his Sobble, who takes us out. Oh, it turns out this is actually one of the few battles you don't have to win to progress the story along. Well, with that out of the way, we progress to the wild area, where we can start to build up our team. The Watchtower ruins, and it is here we can start to pick up more Ghost types to add to our team. As with every area in the wild area, each day the weather changes affecting what Pokemon can spawn there, and how rare they might be for us. For us, as we make our way there, it turns out to be snowing, which is not the ideal weather for this situation. But still, we are able to add 3 new team members here, bringing our total to 4, before we even reach the first gym. Our first new member is Duskull, a slow but highly defensive Pokemon. Our next member is Snorunt, an Ice type. Now, I hear what you're saying, it's not a Ghost type, which is true, but its evolution of Frostlass is, and we can get it fairly early on. With a short walk up to the top of the wild area, there is a Dawn Stone, which we can use right away to evolve Snorunt into, you guessed it, our second member of Frostlass. And finally, we catch ourselves a Drifbloom, a high HP Pokemon, which does have some terrible stats, but hopefully it can take some hits and take high advantage of its ability Aftermath, so it does give us some chip damage nonetheless. With our new team members in hand, we make our way into Motorstock and register for the gym challenges. Afterward, Hop challenges us to another battle. This time it goes completely different thanks to the addition of our new team members, and not being limited to only Ghost type moves. Now we can make our way towards the first gym, but there is still another addition we can add to the team. Flying back to Wedgehurst, we can enter the train station once again. We encounter a Galarian Slowpoke blocking the train station, who we take care of, which unlocks the train station once more and allows us to use our Armor Pass to access the Isle of Armor. Once there, we can make quick work of our new rival found within the DLC of Avery, and we can begin the reason we truly came here, Diglett hunting. Hidden around the Isle of Armor there are 151 Alolan Diglets, and for each milestone of Diglett found, the man by the bridge of where we encounter our first one will reward us with a Alolan Pokemon. Now, we can't use most of these, but there are two we can take advantage of, and this is the main reason we chose Grookey as our starter. At 50 Diglets found, we are awarded a level 30 Alolan Marowak, a Ghost Fire type. Unfortunately, we are unable to use them until Gym 4 due to level caps. At 100 Diglets found, we are awarded the Alolan counterpart to our starter, in this case of Rowlet. Now, both Rowlet and its evolutions of Datrix aren't ghost types. However, once it reaches level 34 and evolves into Decidueye, it becomes a grass ghost, which is usable and will fill a huge gap in our team later on. But for now, Rowlet will just sit in the sidelines, slowly gaining XP until they reach their final form. I should probably say, without the bike and surf feature, we catched every Diglett available to us, and we only just reached the goal of 100, with 102 found. We also do pick up a Sandygast from a nearby max raid den. With a brief detour of the Isle of Armor out the way, we make our way back to the gym challenges. On our way to Turffield, the location of the first gym, we first have to pass through Gala Mine, where we encounter Bede, one of our 3 rivals throughout the game and who we utterly destroy, thanks to them being a Psychic type trainer and Ghost being super effective. And with that out the way, we enter Turffield, learn a bit more about the Darkest Day from Sonia, the professor of the region, well, professor's assistant I guess, and take on our first gym. Before we take on the gym leader of Milo though, we do have to complete the gym challenge, requiring us to herd 20 sheep to the other end of the room 3 times. A simple enough challenge and easily completed. Time to take on Milo, and thanks to Frostlass, Milo's team is taken down with ease. 1 Dynamax and 2 Max Hailstorms later, and the grass badge is ours. As we make our way to the next city along, we stop a bunch of Team Yell members from stealing a scientist bike, and our reward for doing so is acquiring that exact bike. Waiting at the other end of the bridge is Hop, eager for yet another battle. Once more, Frostlass is able to make short work of their teams. Thanks to our Ghost Titan, Wooloo is unable to hit a single move, allowing Frostlass to pick up the KO with an Ice Fang and a Crunch. Hop's next Pokemon out is Corvisquire, and is on the field for even less time, as a super effective Ice Fang one-shots them. And finally Hop's final Pokemon of Drizzle, who managed to do the most damage out the lot, almost picking up a KO, bringing Frostlass down to 5, but is unfortunately still not enough to take out Frostlass, holding strong and knocking out Drizzle and winning us the battle. With Hop now defeated, we make our way to Hilbury. Once in Hilbury, we solve the gym challenge with ease and make our way forwards to take on Nessa. Now, Nessa is a master of the water type, and our ghost team is both neutral in offense and defense, but that does not mean we don't have anything up our sleeves, and that Pokemon is none other than Sandygast. You would think sending them out against a water-based team is a bad idea due to their ground typing, but they have an ability which is able to help them out of water compaction. This ability increases our defense by 2 stages every time we are hit with a water type attack. Of course, we do have to survive the initial hits, which Sandygast is more than capable to do, hitting right back up with a nice Mega Drain. The only issue is that Goldeen is hitting us with Water Pulse, a special type attack. So our defense stat means nothing and Sandygast falls after the 3rd hit. With Sandygast out the picture, we bring in Ghastly to finish the job, with a quick curse. Aruda enters play, and after a quick Aqua Jet takes down Ghastly. Maybe the curse wasn't a good idea. Drifloon tries their hardest to bring down Arrokuda, but only brings them to low red before fainting themselves. Luckily, their ability of Aftermath is enough to bring Arrokuda down with them, leaving just one last Pokemon of Dreadnought. To replace Drifloon, we send out Duskull to meet him. Of course, being Nessa's last Pokemon, they Dynamax and hit a Max Geyser, setting up the rain and almost taking out most of Duskull's health. Payback does a little bit, and we do get off a quick Shadow Sneak before finally falling. It is now up to Frostlass to finish the job, and thanks to Duskull surviving 2 turns, 2 of Dreadnought's Dynamax turns have been wasted, and we are able to deal with just 1 more of our own by tanking our own Frostlass. The fight is then quickly wrapped up with a couple of max phantasms, and the second badge, the water badge, is now ours. Fight to eat with Chairman Rose, we make our way into Gala Mine number 2, and it's here where we once again encounter one of our rivals of Beat, and of course enter a battle. Now, due to the disappointment that Sandy Gas was in our last fight, we bring them out to start against Soloius, who should have an advantage with their ghost type in, but, well, they disappoint once again. Maybe Sandy Gas isn't all that it's cracked up to be. At least not until they evolve and become a bit more tanky. So instead, Ghastly comes out to the field to sweep the rest of B's team with ease. Ghastly does also reach level 25, which means an evolution comes our way of Haunter, and we don't stop there. To evolve Haunter, we do need to do a trade evolution, but since I don't really know anyone who played the game at the time, and I don't trust a random stranger to return our shiny, we swap over to Pokemon Legends Arceus, which has a very useful item of a linking cable, which lets us evolve our Gengar without requiring a second player. Why this item never returned, I don't know. Returning back to Gala Mine number 2 with our newfound Gengar, we take on Team Yell once again with the help of Hop this time around, and find the third gym leader of Kaibu training away. Upon seeing us, they realise that they are a gym trainer and should be at their gym instead of standing around in a cave, and return promptly, and where we are then free to be able to take them on. Of course, we do have to first deal with the gym challenge, requiring us to either defeat or capture a few wild fire types. With none of them being ghost types, we have to opt for the option of knocking them out for the least amount of points, but once we reach the score of 5, we are free to challenge Kaibu. Kabu, a different way I've said it, is a master of the fire types, and luckily we have just enough Pokemon. That's right, Sandy Gas up once again. Okay, I don't know why I keep trying to make him work, but it's kinda getting depressing at this point. Yeah, so Sandy Gas only really scratches Ninetales, and we bring out Driftbloom to take him on instead. With a couple of Shadow Balls, Driftbloom can pick up the KO, but is unfortunately burnt and brought down to half, and we will not be able to survive the rest of the battle, and that is proven right away, not even being able to hit Arcanine before a bite ends us. At the very least, Aftermath is able to do a little bit of chip damage. Duskull is out next and able to get a couple of paybacks off, and thanks to the Arcanine outspeeding, we are able to boost our damage, but once again the dreaded bite is able to knock them out. Taking advantage of our newly evolved Gengar and their high speed stat, we are able to get a free hit of Hex off as Arcanine boosts their own speed and tries to finish them off with a second bite, but we do tank it and then finish Arcanine. Kaibu's final Pokemon is Centiskorch, who can use their Dynamax. Gengar being the first Pokemon that they are, they do manage to get off a Hex, dealing a fair amount of damage, before a G-Max Centifero is enough to wipe us out. Entering with our own Dynamax, we send out Frostlass, wasting one of Centiskorch's turns of Dynamax with a Max Guard, and for their final turn we hit a Max Phastasm, which brings them down to just half, but in return a G-Max Centifero, I'm saying that wrong, is enough to KO a Frostlass. But Centiskorch's Dynamax does run out. With only one Pokemon left of Datrix, which is both weak to the incoming fire attacks and not a ghost type, we make a hard choice and decide to use a Max Revive on Gengar. Once Datrix is full, we bring Gengar back in once again, who is able to get off a Lick, Hex, and a Shadow Ball for the KO. And the victory, while Centiskorch seems to just set around smoke screens to lower accuracy. The fire badge now are, we are given a send-off by the 3 gym leaders and are able to make our way through the wild area to Hammerlock. And that is not our destination right now. Instead, we return back to the Isle of Armor. Returning to the Isle of Armor, we are able to progress through the DLC stories once more. First up, we have to defeat Dojo Master Mustard in a quick battle, and strangely enough, it is here where Sandy Gust is finally able to show its worth, taking out both their Menfu and Shinx with ease. It could be because of the level difference, but this is Sandy Gust we're talking about. Our second task is to chase down some Slowpokes who have stolen one of the dojo's outfits, and considering they are called Slowpokes, they do not seem like it at all. Once again, Sandy Gust proves their worth, taking down each Slowpoke like nothing. Returning to the Jojo, we are given a choice between looking after a Squirtle or a Bulbasaur. Neither are ghost types, and this isn't a skippable event, so we just go for the Squirtle for no reason in particular. After selecting Squirtle, we are tasked to go and find some max mushrooms to make some max soup, and the whole reason for returning in the first place. After quickly destroying Avery, who's trying to steal and stop us from getting any more max shrooms, we collect the final ones and return to the dojo. Using the mushrooms, a mean bowl of max soup is made up, and we give some of the soup to Gengar, who learns the ability to Gigantamax. With our little side adventure complete, we return back to the main island of Galar and make our way to the top of the wild area, entering Hammerlog. Upon entering, a load of story and lore stuff happens. In a nutshell, Bede was endorsed by Chairman Rose, we were given a brief explanation of how the power plants work. Leon basically tells us Hop's a sore loser, but he'll be a great trainer one day if they let it all go, and Sonia finds a museum with information about the Darkest Day. Leaving Hammerlock, we are blocked by Team Yell, trying to wake up a sleeping Silicobra, and Well will not move until it awakes. So in order to force them to move out our way, both ourselves and Hop deal with each member and make short work of them both. Despite us making all the noise we could during our battles, the Silicobra is still asleep, and both Team Yell and Hop, causing the Silicobra to wake up. Fighting through Route 6 is a breeze, and the only thing of note that happens here is after a quick double battle, our Drifbloom evolves into a Drifblim. Reaching Stow side, Hop is eagerly awaiting for a rematch, and of course we oblige, not that we have much choice in the matter either way. Hop starts off the battle with a Cramorant and us with a Drifblim, and it really does put up a fight, diving down every other turn to activate its ability of Gold Missile, causing them to fire their catch at us every time we deal physical damage to them, and avoiding half of our attacks due to diving back underwater. Drifbloom does almost manage to knock them out, but Hop heals them right back up to full, before Cramorant knocks out Drifblim. Despite falling, Drifbloom still did a decent amount of work, allowing Frostlass to come in and finish off what was started. Unfortunately, Frostlass does not last long though. They are only able to deal about half of Drizzle's health before a bite knocks them out. Bringing in Duskull, we tried to make use of Payback to reflect the back double damage, but somehow Hop calls it and uses a Teary Eye, lowering our attack both times. A Shadow Sneak is able to pick up the KO though, but once again is called with a Sucker Punch, bringing us down to just above red. Silicobra is out next, and we start to chip away its health with Shadow Sneak after Shadow Sneak, barely hanging on at 3 HP by a brutal swing, and fighting through a glare to deal as much damage before we fall to the second brutal swing. To finish the battle, we send out Gengar. 2 Night Slashes is all it takes, but unfortunately a dig does bring us down to just under half. Hop's final Pokemon is none other than a baby Toxel, and well, being a baby Pokemon, they have barely any stats and very low defense and special defense, resulting in a single hex finishing off Toxel and the battle. With Hop now defeated, we are free to make our way and take on the 4th gym, but before that we have something important to deal with. This whole challenge we have been dealing with a level cap, which is easier said than done with permanent XP share in the modern games. But so far we have more or less been okay. Now the 4th gym raises that level cap and allows us to use a few XP candies on Daytrix to reach level 34, triggering their evolution and becoming a Decidueye. And more importantly, gaining that ghost typing, allowing us to finally make use of a full party of 6. With that out of the way, we now head towards the gym. The gym challenge is a game of ping ball. Honestly, it was quite fun and I kinda wish it was slightly longer. So before the battle begins, I should probably take note that we are fighting a ghost type master of Alistar, who firstly our team is both good and bad against, since Ghost is super effective against Ghosts. But secondly, this gym is one of the few features that differs from each version of the game. We are of course playing Pokemon Shield. Why? I don't really have a reason, it was just the first copy I picked up. But if playing through Sword, this gym would be a fighting type instead, completely flipping how the battle would go. So yeah. Anyway, back to the battle. The fight begins Gengar versus Yamask, and well, it's a quick showing, with Gengar taking down Yamask before they even have a chance to say hello, with a single Hex. Corsola is next out onto the field, and once again we fire a Hex their way, this time only doing just over half, but it does not matter as they decide to wipe themselves out with a Curse. Although the issue is now Gengar is taking increasing damage from the Curse every turn until either we swap them out or they faint. So we swap into Drifbloom straight after Mimikyu comes out, boosting their attack and accuracy with a Hone Claws. As Mimikyu sets up another Hone Claws, we are able to break their disguise with a Shadow Ball. With Mimikyu's disguise now broken and a 2 boosted stage of attacks, Shadow Sneak almost knocks out Drifbloom, but they are able to just about hold on and return fire with a crit Shadow Ball for the knockout. Now for Alice's final Pokemon of their own, Gengar. Outspeeding and Gigantamaxing and sending a Max Darkness to Drifbloom, which of course picks up the KO. It is now time for Gengar v Gengar, and we can showcase just what a shiny Gengar can do, and the main reason I wanted one for this run. With our superior Gengar, we hit a G Max Terror, bringing the weaker Gengar down to 1 HP. And they return fire with another Max Darkness, but it's not enough, allowing one more G-Max Terror to take out and pick up the KO, showcasing who has the better Gengar, winning us the battle and awarding us the Ghost Badge. Leaving the gym, more story progression takes place. We find Bede destroying a colourful wall with Chairman Rose's Coppergara. Probably said that wrong. To try and stop them, we quickly make work of them with Drifblim. Afterwards, Rose revokes their endorsementship and takes them away. The wall then crumbles away, and it turns out the sword and shield from the Darkest Day were none other than Pokemon. Anyway, back to the gym challenges. Flying through Grimwood Tangle, we pick up the evolution of Duskull into Dusclops, hop over to Legends Arceus once again to evolve them into a Dusknoir, and return to Shield reaching Balaloon, home of the Fairy type gym. The gym challenge is very simple, as it consists of 3 trainer battles back to back to back with questions after the first turn, which if answered correctly boosts our stats, letting the battle become even more simpler. With the gym challenge completed, we take on Opal, the master of the fairy. The battle begins Decidueye versus Galarian and Weezing. Hitting a Sucker Punch, we do a little bit of chip, but in return a super effective Sludge hits us, as well as causing the poison condition. Answering our first question correctly, our speed is boosted. A Spirit Shackle brings Weezing down to just below half, and the same goes for a Sludge coming our way. But the next turn we are able to take Weezing out with one final Spirit Shackle. It does crit, but I'm fairly confident that didn't make any difference. Taking the poison damage, Decidueye is now down to 25 HP as Mawile comes out. So rather than losing Decidueye just yet, we swap into Dusknoir, getting hit by a Crush in the process. Another answered correct question boosts Dusknoir's special defense. Now the main way we plan to use Dusknoir is as a status inflictor, to weaken our opponent and also increase the damage of our hexes spread across our team, dealing additional damage to Pokemon with status conditions. So of course we take our plan into action straight away and go for a Will-O-Wisp to burn Mawile, cutting all their physical attack damage in half, all while they bolster their defense with an Iron defense. Unfortunately it does not help them at all, as a Hex wipes them out next turn. Next onto the field is Togekiss, who both outspeeds and knocks out Dusknoir with a single Air Slash. To take their place we bring in Frostlass, Dynamaxing, outspeeding, hitting a super effective Max Hellstorm, with Togekiss barely hanging on, the Hell being set up and our ability of Snowcloak activating, allowing us to dodge an incoming Ancient Power. And finally the Hell finishes off Togekiss. It's now time for Opal's final Pokemon of Alcremie. But beforehand we answer yet another question, bolstering Frostlass's special attack. As Alcremie comes into play, they Gigantamax, as Frostlass hits a max hailstorm, bringing him down to a third HP. El Creamy fires back with a G-Max finale, almost bringing down Frostlass to half and healing a fraction of their health back up. Unfortunately, it was not enough to survive another max hailstorm, picking up the KO, winning us the battle and awarding the Fairy Badge. With our next badge in hand, we accompany Opal to Hammerlock, where we bump into Bede and is proceeded to quickly more or less be kidnapped by Opal. Oh well, not our problem. As we make our way towards Route 7, Hop is waiting at the end of the bridge. He does like waiting at bridges. Of course they challenge us once again, but our ghost team is able to wipe them out with no sweat at all. With Sandygas pulling their weight for once, dealing with the Trevenant and most of Bolton's health before getting roared into Gengar, who sweeps up the remainder of Bolton, Inteleon and Heatmore, before finally swapping into Dusknoir to deal with the Snorlax, who is burnt and chipped away down with a few fire punches, not being able to do almost anything in return. With Hop now destroyed yet again, we continue onwards to Route 7 and 8, without any trouble, and reach the next city of Chichester. Chichester is the fitting home of the Ice-type gym, although once again this is a Shield exclusive. Over on Sword this is a ground gym. The gym challenge requires us to play Minesweeper, finding the correct path, battling the trainers blocking our route along the way across 3 different sections. Once completed, we are free to take on Melanie, the Ice-type master. Our battle begins Dusknoir vs Frostmoth. Frostmoth sets up the hell while we hit a 4 times super effective fire punch for the KO. So to take their place, Melanie brings out Galarian Darmanitan, who taunts Dusknoir, preventing them from using any non-attacking moves, which doesn't make any difference for now as another fire punch is sent out, bringing Darmanitan down to just below half and causing them to enter Zen mode, gaining the additional type of fire. Darmanitan sends an Icicle Crash to Dusknoir, bringing them down to 41 HP. And once again we go for a fire punch. Unfortunately, due to their newfound fire typing, the damage becomes neutral and they survive on what looks like 1 HP, allowing Darmanitan to pick up the KO next turn with another Icicle Crash. To take revenge, Frostlass enters play. How we don't outspeed, I have no idea, but thankfully due to the hell we are able to dodge the incoming Fire Fang and take down Darmanitan with a crunch. Melanie's next Pokemon is SQ, and although they are barely able to scratch Frostlass, the fight is dragged on due to their ability of Ice Face, which while up blocks all incoming physical damage. Up until writing this script I assumed it was all damage, but I guess not. Unlike Mimikyu's ability of disguise, Ice Fang pops back up every time hail is set up or sent out during the hail, blocking our attacks a couple of times before we are eventually able to take them out, leaving just 1 Pokemon left for Melina of Lapras. Of course, Lapras Gigantamaxes as soon as it comes out to play, but rather than doing the same, we slowly chip away their health with a couple of crushes before succumbing to a Max Geyser. This allows us to bring in Decidueye for free, Dynamaxing and taking out Lapras with a single Max Overgrowth. Finally, after having Sandygas in our party for so long, the victory has awarded us enough XP to evolve them into none other than Palossand, who is now much more of a tank. And with that, Melina is defeated and our next badge of the Ice Badge is ours. Leaving the gym, we are treated to a meal by Sonia, with Hop, and more story stuff happens. After eating, Hop challenges us yet again to another battle. You'd think he would be tired of all these humiliating defeats, but I guess not. Again, the battle is no problem at all, with Dusknoir taking care of Dubwool, with our newly evolved Palossand defeating the remains of Snorlax, Decidueye dealing with Inteleon, and Frostlass finishing off Corviknight and Pinurgent. Despite the battle still being a breeze, I will give Hop some credit. Their team is a lot more rounded out now, and did require us to do some key switching to take it down. Making our way down to Route 9, we deal with Team Yell causing some issue for another scientist. In return, our Rotom bike is upgraded, letting us surf across the water now. Across the ocean? Lake? I guess the body of water? We find ourselves outside Spikemouth, home of the 7th gym. Unfortunately, the doors to the city are blocked off, so I guess that's where our journey ends. Well, it would seem that way until Marinine calls us over. I've also just realised I have not introduced her at all during this whole script. She's our third rival of the game, and we've battled her a couple of times, but nothing interesting has happened just yet. They show us the back entrance and allow us to enter as long as we defeat them in a Pokemon battle. Now, Marinine puts up a lot more of a fight than Hop, and her team is a majority of Dark type, and a lot of that damage coming our way is super effective against our ghosts. Despite that, with the tanks of what Dusknoir and Palossand are, we are able to deal with most of her team with relative ease, only losing Palossand in the process and relying on Decidueye to finish the battle up against Morpeko. With Marinine defeated, we are free to enter Spikemouth and take on the 7th gym. The gym challenge is a gauntlet, taking out Team Yell grunt after grunt, fighting down an alleyway until we reach the end, with Pierce lying in wait, rocking out, waiting for the challengers to approach. Similar to Marinine, Pierce is a Dark type user, and the master of the region. We start off with Drifloon against their Scrafty, and well, Drifloon does not last long at all, with 2 Paybacks doing the job, with one of which not even being additional damage due to us trying to build our defense a little bit with stockpiles. We bring in Decidueye to deal with Scrafty, but once again a huge damage in Payback almost knocks Decidueye down. But they are able to just about hang on and take Scrafty down next turn with a plug. Malamar is out next for Pierce and is able to take down Decidueye with, of course, another Payback. But not before more than half of their health is taken away with a Leaf Blade. Gengar enters the field and makes short work of the remainder of Malamar's health with a quick Hex. Obstagoon, Pierce's ace and most dangerous of his team, is called forward. Obstagoon has a signature move of Obstruct, which acts the same as Protect, apart from if you are caught attacking into the move with a physical attack, the attacking Pokemon's defense is harshly lowered by 2 stages. Thankfully, most of our attacks are special, so we don't have to worry about it. Gengar is only able to get off a single Dark Pulse, which doesn't even scratch Obstagoon, before being taken out by a super effective Throat Chop. Obstagoon really is a difficult fight. They proceed to make short work of Dusknoir, who isn't even able to bring them down to half. Frostlass is only able to set up the hail for some chip damage, and we take a turn before fainting to bring Dusknoir back with a max revive, since they are the key to this victory. Coming back in, Dusknoir is able to tank an incoming Throat Chop, as well as finish them off with a Fire Punch. Now for Pierce's last Pokemon of Stuntank. As we take the time to heal, a toxic badly poisons Dusknoir. The next turn we are able to fire back with a Will-O-Wisp, burning Stuntank and halving all incoming physical damage, and adding another timer to the battle. Dusknoir is brought down to a 3rd HP with a Sucker Punch, while a Hex brings Stuntank down to just below half. Once again, Sucker Punch comes Dusknoir away, and this time it picks up the KO. To finish the job off, we send in our last Pokemon of Palossand, who is just about able to take down Stuntank, winning us the battle and awarding us the Dark Badge, with only 1 left to collect. Returning to Hammerlock, we are free to tackle the final gym. Both the gym challenge and the gym have the same gimmick of double battles, with different weather teams. After taking down the 3 trainers each and the different weather teams, we are free to take on the leader of Raihan, who not only is a master of the dragon type, but also has his own unique weather team. Albeit not the best, as they do have to cater to their dragon typing. Surprisingly, the battle is a piece of cake, with a combination of Dynamax, Frostlass and Decidueye swiping through every member of their team right up until they Gigantamax their Duraludon, with Duraludon taking out Frostlass not before we are able to get some damage off and slowly begin to chip away with Decidueye. Dusknoir is able to come in onto the field and get off a Will-O-Wisp, burning Duraludon and reducing all their physical moves in half, allowing us to buy a few more turns and eventually able to take them down with a Hex. Just like that, the 8th and final badge of the Dragon Badge is ours, and we are free to make our way to Wyden and take on the Champions Cup. After making our way through Route 10, where not much happens, we enter Wyden. But before making our way to take part, we take some time to learn and swap out some moves and equip items to our team. Now, compared to most Pokemon games, the Elite Four in this game is replaced with the Champions Cup, where instead of fighting 4 members of the Elite Four and then taking out the champion, we must first win both the semi-finals and finals in able to face the champion of Leon, with the semis containing 2 battles and the final containing 3. So who is our first opponent? Why, of course it is none other than Marini. So here's the thing, there is about 8 back-to-back-to-back battles from this point on until we reach the legendary and final champion battle. Now I could sit here and voice over every single one, but most of them don't really have anything interesting happened, and we sweep and fly through all of them. So I'm going to spice things up, and rather than just go over them bit by bit, we're going to create a montage of sorts, only showing the key and interesting parts of the fights. During our fight with Marini, things get very shaky at the end. Their Grimmsnarl single-handedly manages to wipe out all but Gengar, and requires us to do some protect stalling, in able to stall out some burn damage and eventually pick up the KO, hoping we don't get one shot by a Darkless Lariat. Hop is next up, and yeah, just like any of the other Hop battles, it was simple enough and nothing to report. They ran the same as all the others. I guess our team is pretty good against theirs. After the semi, some more story happens and we fight our way up Rose Tower. Take out Olena and confront Rose for stealing away Leon, who we plan to have dinner with that night. Returning to the final of the Champions Cup, we have to defeat a few of the gym leaders once again, but this time they have a more powerful team. Our final rival of Bede does interrupt beforehand though, who, after being kidnapped, has been made the new fairy type gym leader, with an all new and improved team to boot. The thing is, Decidueye is able to solo their whole team other than Hattonary, but Gengar is able to finish the job after Gigantamax him. Netta is the first of the finals and is easily dispatched by the combination forces of Dusknoir, Drifbloom and Decidueye. Alistair, the Ghost-type master, is next up, and a simple battle thanks to us outspeeding with our Ghost-type attacks, resulting in Drifbloom and Decidueye putting in the work. And the final gym leader we have to rematch is Raihan, and honestly it is even easier to beat here than back at the gym, mainly in part to their whole team being built around the weather and double battles, and when not in that situation, the team falls short. Now finally, just before we are about to fight Leon, Chairman Rose invokes some more story starting the darkest day. We make our way back to Slumbering Weed, pick up a rusty shield, make our way to Hammerlock Energy Plant, defeat Chairman Rose and his Steel type team, go to the top, encounter Eternius, summon the legendaries, defeat and capture Eternius, and finish the main story. Okay, so with that now all out the way, it's time for the final act and the moment you have all been waiting for, the battle against none other than Leon the Champion. Can our ghost-only team take the win and take his crown? The battle begins, Ghost type against Ghost type, with our Drifbloom starting off against their Aegislash. While they do go for their unique protect of King's Shield, Drifbloom sets up Tailwind, boosting our speed by 2 stages for 4 turns. Outspeeding and hitting a Shadow Ball, Aegislash is brought down to just below half. Entering their attack form, they respond with their own Shadow Ball, one-shotting Drifbloom. We bring out our tank of Palisand to take revenge, and thanks to the Tailwind they are able to outspeed and finish off Aegislash with another Shadow Ball. Seismitoad is Leon's next Pokemon. Still outspeeding, we hit a Giga Drain, almost knocking out Seismitoad with only one move. They in return set up a toxic, badly poisoning Polysand. As Leon uses a full restore to bring Seismotone back to full health, we bring them right back down with another Gigatrain. With Tailwind no longer in effect, Seismotone now outspeeds, and somehow an incoming liquidation does not knock out Polysand, leaving them on just 2 HP, and we are able to knock them out with one final Gigadrain. But unfortunately, they succumb to their poison damage. Leon sends out Dragapult and us Frostlass. Assuming Dragapult outspeeds, we have to protect to test the waters and avoid an incoming Shadow Ball. Although it does not matter, as the next turn we guessed correctly. They outspeed, this time connecting the Shadow Ball for a one-hit KO. Dragapult is 100% going to be a problem for our team, most likely outspeeding the whole team, with our only saving grace who may outspeed being Gengar. Swapping in, we are incorrect and Dragapult still outspeed, hitting another Shadow Ball, but the story is different this time around, barely holding on with 4 HP. Returning fire with our own Shadow Ball, it's barely not enough, leaving them on about 1 HP. To stall a little, we protect an incoming Fire Breath. Seeing them go for Fire Breath might be a blessing in disguise, as this will most likely mean another Fire Breath will come next turn. So we take advantage of this and swap into Dusknoir, who can easily take it. We are correct and Dusknoir survives. Now the question is, will Shadow Ball KO us? But for some reason they go for a Dragon Breath, allowing Dusknoir to survive without an issue, finishing Dragapult with an Hex. A real quick interruption, but the reason they never hit a Shadow Ball was because Gengar's Cursed Body procced, and I've only just clocked that, not while writing the script but while actually editing the video. So the more you know. Haxorus is next out, and before Dusknoir is able to move, they are KO'd by an Outrage. We bring in Decidueye, who tanks an Outrage, but deals over half in return with a Spirit Shackle. A Sucker Punch then brings Haxorus down to red, but their final Outrage is enough to knock out Decidueye. At least they are now confused. Returning to the field is Gengar. To survive whatever comes our way, we protect, but it does not make any difference as the confused Haxorus hits themselves in confusion, knocking themselves out. Cinderace is next up, and this time we use some revives. There is no way we can currently win without it. Sacrificing Gengar, we use a Max Revive on Polysand and bring them in. Polysand then survives the incoming aerobatics at just above half and returns with a super effective Earth Power for the KO. Now for Leon's final and ace of Charizard. Before they are able to move, we use another Max Revive on Gengar this time around, as it is only fitting for the final battle to be between the two. Of course, Leon Gigantamaxes Charizard and fires a Max Overgrowth to finish off Polysand. We bring out Gengar and Gigantamax ourselves with a Max Guard, blocking their incoming G-Max Wildfire. Outspeeding a G-Max Terra brings Charizard down to just above half, while they return with a Max Roxfall, barely scratching Gengar, but at the same time they set up the Sandstorm. With that being Charizard's last turn of Gigantamax, they return back to normal size, and Gengar is able to fire off one final G-Max Terra for the knockout, and win. Leon is defeated and we have won the Champions Cup. And just like that, we are crowned the new champion of the Galar region, all while only using a Ghost type team. So the question of, is it possible? The answer is yes. Yes it is. Well, actually we did need to use revives in the battles, so if you count them as cheating, then I guess no we can't. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. If you made it this far in the video, would you consider subscribing and liking the video? It really does help push it out for others to see, and shows that it's something you might like to see more challenges like in the future. If you have any other challenge runs you might like to see me attempt, let me know below and I'll be sure to give it a try. But without further ado, once again, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon.